Hey, hello everybody. Hello, and welcome to a new edition of the Swis Jon Show, sorry.
I'm a
I,
what?
yes, you're a watch, or people watch you. So I am Swiss. I am here with my friend Jonathan. How are you, Jonathan?
Hello, Swiss. I'm doing very good. How are you?
I'm doing good too.
You're
So,
sweating a little bit on your
sorry?
forehead because of your slow computer, I can
Yeah,
see.
it's crazy, man. It's getting embarrassing. I mean, the best internet connection you use that with, man. My internet connection is far from the best, far from the best. But I'm doing my best, guy. I'm doing my best. Um, so tell us, Jonathan, what do we have to for tonight? I think we wanted to have a little chat once again about what we talked last time about the state of the industry. Um,
Yes,
yeah, let me
I
pull it
think
up again. Up. There we go.
so. Can we make that a little bit bigger, or
Yeah.
is that? Yeah, that is good. So what I found significant, if you see 2020, AP was on position 6, and 2021 AP climbed to position number 4, outperformed Patek Philippe. And in my opinion, that is a significant thing. I'm pretty sure Mr. Benaniamas, or
Benamias.
however he's called, will be celebrated at AP for a very successful 2 or 3 years. What people have to keep in mind, AP shifted their entire distribution from having ADs to basically boutiques only. There are barely AP retailers anymore. So, what does that mean for revenue? For example, AP is selling a watch for 50,000 US dollars. If they sell this particular watch to an AD, they get maybe 28,000 for that.
Mm-hmm.
So the same watch, if they sell it to an AD, is putting 28,000 into their pocket. If they're selling it in their own boutique, they're getting 50,000. And that partly explains the enormous jump that AP recently did, particularly in 2021,
Yes.
outperforming Patek Philippe, because we know Patek Philippe has boutiques. As far as I know, all the boutiques are owned by ADs. Is that correct?
Yeah. Exactly.
So, so it is a little bit an unfair comparison. For example, Omega shifted to boutique only during the last couple of years as well. So their revenue per piece is higher than, let's say, Rolex, who are almost exclusively, are supplying ADs.
Mm-hmm.
So if we are talking about those numbers, keep that in mind, and let's take the numbers as a grain of salt, with a grain of salt. But still remarkable to me is that Cartier managed to overtake Omega. And in my opinion, that is due to the fact that they really ramped up their men's watches, because
Yes.
Cartier traditionally was always strong with the ladies' watches. And
Exactly.
I think the fact that they've been able to surpass Omega is mostly due to the fact that they brought the Santos back in very nice variations. And so it became a very attractive brand for men.
Yes.
Not not
That
sure
that's
if yeah,
yeah.
not sure if Omega is able to strike back with the recent um, displayed novelties. Let's see what Cartier brings next week. So it will be very interesting.
Oh, I tell you, we will be the first one informed. I will be on the terrain watching at all of this. So yeah, I have the same opinion. It's the men's Santos. The Santos collection just changed everything for Cartier. You can see now so many, you know, like 2-3 years ago, nobody was talking about Cartier Santos. Now you can see many videos about the new, all steel XL blue dial version. Very popular now. So yes, this men's Santos collection is a very, very, very popular with Cartier right now. As you said, so they think the same thing in this article. Audemars Piguet markets dropped from 4.3 to 4.2%. But since they have absolute control of the retail network, since they are boutique only now, Audemars Piguet fully controls its own destiny. And yeah, this is totally true.
Yeah,
totally true.
And dare I say, the 50th anniversary of the Royal Oak will fire those numbers.
Oh, absolutely. We saw nothing yet. We saw nothing yet. It's only beginning right now. Man, can you imagine all the billionaires right now who are queuing up like good little puppies to their AP boutiques?
I love that idea actually, that they're scratching the door and begging.
Who was it? Was it Russell who says, "I don't beg"?
No, Pendulum was it?
Oh, Pendulum.
By the way, if Pendulum listens, shout out to my friend.
I do not beg. That's how it should be. Yeah. So I totally agree with your analysis right there. And
so
very interesting stuff. We have a few questions.
Yes, Alex Ristaholic.
Ristaholic.
Yeah, how can you explain why Longines is on high rank because of sales in Chinese market? I don't know. I think they are very popular in Asia, as far as I know. But I can't tell anything more. I don't have any details or any inside knowledge. Maybe the original OC has something to say about that, because he's the number. He's basically the machine monkey.
He's
of
the wiki.
Numbers.
He's the watches wiki.
Yeah. No. He's not the watches wiki. Actually, he's just a boring bookkeeper.
An accountant.
All the numbers. Basically. Yeah.
How can you compare this time when many brands were closed and some didn't allow online sales?
That is a fair point. Also, many brands were closed by the government to government regulations to protect the workers. Some voluntarily closed or limited their staff. So it's all in turmoil. COVID changed a lot. And like you say, the brands who had an online sales channel have benefited from that. And the ones who didn't were suffering a little bit, with the exception of Rolex. I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for the point that Rolex really throws their ADs overboard and does it all by themselves. I know that they are very loyal to their ADs, but you can see it cracking. Because recently they've been firing a lot of ADs who were very long together with them, and in those times loyalty is not really king. And in my opinion, if Rolex opened an online boutique tomorrow, they could basically close down all the ADs and do the business by themselves.
Yeah. However, can you imagine the load on the poor website?
Yes.
Every day it would crash. Oh my God, I can't even imagine.
I also have a comment to Alex Watchholic. He said last time that Omega never aimed to overtake Rolex, and I was searching for some quotations from their CEOs, and Alex, what you're saying is not true. So they very often said that their products are good enough to surpass Rolex, to be the number one, and so on. So if you check online, you see multiple interviews where Omega basically puts out the goal to surpass Rolex in the future.
The captain says, I love the Santos, but how long can the demand last? AP has many variations of the Royal Oak offshore, but I don't see the Santos able to replicate the success of the Royal Oak. Well, first of all, they are very different watches, but it's a very new product right now. I would say even it is in trend. So I kind of agree with the captain. I can hardly see the Santos becoming like a iconic watch that every collection must have. Like you would say for a Submariner or a Reverso or something like this. But right now it is extremely successful, and Cartier is taking full advantage of it. What do you say?
I absolutely agree. What is fascinating is the Santos has been always an icon for Cartier, not for watch collectors,
Mhm.
and it has been highly successful in the 70s when two-tone was king at first,
Yeah.
and basically the Santos was the trendsetter for the visible screws. Back then in the 70s, nobody really did those visible screws, and the Santos was the first one. Side note, there was a terrible disaster at the beginning because in the 70s, Cartier put out a lifelong warranty, and their metal bracelet were crap.
Oh
So
shit.
they lost a
Okay.
lot of money because they had to replace
Oh
those
no.
bracelets free of charge. And I remember those. They looked like silver credit cards, those lifelong warranties. And every time a client pulled those up, we knew, oh, another day of trouble for Cartier ahead. And then they shifted. The first step that Cartier did was when a watch came back on with a claim of warranty to replace the bracelet, they insisted in a full service, which was very expensive. So they partly compensated their losses, and at a certain point of time, they didn't honor the lifelong warranty under many excuses. So it was really embarrassing. So,
Mhm.
but back then in the 70s, the Santos was very edgy, very sharp. It had an automatic movement, which was not really good, and so the success dimmed a little bit in the 80s, 90s, when more modern concepts came up, and then now they basically took the Panthère, which is a curved watch, and they transferred the Panthère design to the Santos, and in my opinion, that is their success.
Yeah. Whole milk. I couldn't name a single Van Cleef and Arpels watch, but I'm sure they are beautiful. Dude, if you just Google Van Cleef and Arpels watches, they are extremely high end, like very high end, like $100,000 plus. You don't see them very often, but it's a millionaire's wife Christmas gift basically.
Yeah.
And
I
I
think the
can see
ladies'
them
watches are
being
very
very
strong.
popular in the very high, poshy environments and billionaires club.
Guys, just one little break. Swiss
Mm,
told me we will have a very low viewer count. We presently have 30 viewers, which is
good,
quite
excellent.
surprising because the London Watch Show is going on. But
Yes,
please, guys, please be so kind to upvote and subscribe if you haven't. Thank you very much.
yeah, thank you so much, guys. Captain Swiss, you're an absolute legend. I agree. Thank you very much. I love you, man. Danger. Cartier has a very creative innovation for their Santos bracelet. I mean, their Santos it's a good watch. I mean, it is very popular, and they did something very good with it, and they do, in my opinion, they deserve the rewards. They deserve it.
Yeah, OC
OC,
made a good
yeah.
one.
Sorry.
I think there is a statistics out there that every minute, no, every 10 seconds, somewhere is a Longines watch sold. I think I've heard a number
Oh,
like that. Every 10
wow.
seconds, somewhere in the world, someone is selling a
Oh,
Longines
he
watch.
said yes. Longines is huge in Asia. Yeah, probably. Yes, and Longines 1.8 million units in 2021.
Yeah.
That is a lot.
Yeah, that's
So
basically double of the amount of Rolex.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So my case says, is this table the worldwide industry or just
This is
Swiss?
Swiss exports.
Yeah.
So I don't think it wait, does it count
I think it's not
the
exports,
Swiss market
it
too?
is revenue.
Oh, revenue. Okay, so it is just the Swiss brands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Would you choose Santos medium size or Rolex Explorer? I would take the Rolex.
Me
I'm
too.
not a big Santos guy. Sorry, guys. The only Cartier that I really like is the Cartier Drive, or maybe the Tank Basculante, but that's a bit niche.
Basculante is fantastic, but only for ladies. Or would you wear a Basculante?
I mean, it's cool, but if I could, buy one and gift it to my girlfriend, that would be a sick gift. What do you say?
Can you pull up a Basculante?
Yeah. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Alors, donc, basculant. Here we go.
Yeah, Captain makes a good point. Where is Seiko? Seiko is not there because it's not Swiss. It would be interesting to have a comparable number for
Seiko would be very successful, though, in my opinion.
Yes. And also by the numbers.
Yes, by the numbers.
1.7 million for Longines is just a drop in the bucket for Seiko. But
yes. So, guys, this is the Tank Basculante. So it's basically the Cartier version of a reverso. And just to tell you, it's not a complete ripoff, because the guys who designed this case switcheroo system are the exact same guys who designed it for the reverso in the first place. I don't remember the story, but Cartier did come afterwards to the exact same people who designed the reverso, and they said, "Hey, I want that too. That's freaking cool." And to not clash with the JLC patent, they had to come up with this other system.
Actually, Jamie Opulence will kill me. I like the Basculante better than the reverso. It is fragile. J617 has a point. It is relatively fragile, yes.
Will Cartier introduce a Santos with Tiffany dial? I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Maybe on eBay we will see modded dials in that spirit. Okay.
Wait, so apparently Wish Watchaholic asked, where is Zenith? No Zenith.
Yeah.
Wait, was it even there? No, it wasn't even there before. So
Zenith,
no Zenith.
Zenith always struggles revenue-wise, so I'm not surprised. Just look at number 20 for 2021 is Bulgari. I would guess that Zenith is selling less watches than Bulgari. So,
yeah, I would say too, because Bulgari has the women's collection.
Yes,
while Zenith, it has a chronograph. That's it.
Here, Bookkeeper Original or OC says Zenith is still very much struggling, approximately 14,000 annual. So
really, yeah. I would think more. Okay, 14,000. Wow. Okay, interesting. Did you see any other interesting question?
No, I think we shouldn't get it too boring. I'm just waiting for Mr. GMT yelling at us. So
yeah, by the way, I saw a comment of him before. I'm watching. Don't fuck it up, boys.
Yeah.
I cannot promise anything, but
yeah, Mr. GMT won't join us tonight.
Yeah. We are with you, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Look, he's there. What the fuck are you ignoring my message, boys?
He can't stay away, really. Okay, so AK Dave is yawning. So let's move to the next topic.
Of course. So the next topic, we wanted to talk about what we call Phoenix brands. Is that correct?
Yes, and it's all original OC's fault. May I say that?
Okay.
So basically, what happened last week in a discussion, original OC was naughty enough and nasty enough to ask a panel what they think about that beautiful Moritz Grossmann tremblage that we've been talking about last week.
Mm-hmm.
Pull it up.
Yeah. Give me one second. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that a good one? It's good enough.
Yes. So in my opinion, that watch is absolutely beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. Moritz Grossmann, in my opinion, is a legitimate watchmaker who do an amazing job. They are creative, but they are on the current conservative side. They have a lot of manual Handwerkskunst or craftsmanship in their production. And in my opinion, their products speak for themselves.
Yes.
So there is no marketing hype. There is no inflated or bogus story or anything. And when OC asked about that watch, a discussion went on about Phoenix brands. And I would like to bring the topic of Phoenix brands up.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, I think we should have a discussion or a definition what Phoenix brands are. So what is it when we're talking about Phoenix brands?
Yeah.
Do you know the Phoenix in Greek mythology?
Yes. So it is basically the bird that at the end of its life burst into flame and from the ashes is reborn.
Yes, a new eagle rises up then from the ashes.
Exactly.
That Moritz Grossmann is 37,000 euros. You mentioned 31,000, but that is without tax.
Oh.
So that particular Moritz Grossmann is 37, and it has a tremblage dial, which is a very complicated process. It's a negative engraving, basically, and it's an amazing watch. So yes, rising from the ashes. And basically now, if we convert it to watches, like OC says, a brand that rises from the dead. And usually that Phoenix brand term is used to look down a little bit snobbish on watch brands that have interrupted or no history.
Absolutely.
So let's, you know that I'm a fan of Lange, and I'm hearing often Lange is a Phoenix brand. So basically what happened was Lange was a top high-end producer of the best pocket watches that you could buy before World War II. And after World War II, the Russians basically took the Lange factory away from Mr. Lange for many years, and in 1989 he received the company back. Then there were no pocket watches anymore. The production basically was very low end because all the Glashütte watch companies were combined in a kind of big factory for low end watches. And in 1989, Mr. Lange got his company back. And there was basically nothing left. And then he started to cooperate with with IWC, with the help of Mr. Günter Blumlein, and they created that amazing collection of watches. So now many Patek guys say, yeah, but Lange doesn't have the uninterrupted history of Patek Philippe. And that is a true point. But is it really important? And in how far is it important to have an undiscontinued history? And I would like to take the oldest watch company that still exists with uninterrupted history, which is Swis.
It's a Vacheron Constantin from 1755.
Yes, 1755. So Vacheron, I remember the days when Vacheron was dead in the 1970s and in the 1980s. They struggled to sell watches at all. They were owned by an oil minister from Mr. Yamani, was, I think, from Jordan, as far as I know. And so basically, Vacheron was dead. Vacheron that you see from today has nothing to do with Vacheron from the 1970s. The factory has changed. The staff has changed. The machines have changed. The place of production has changed. And the illusion that Vacheron is still producing in that little cabinotier atelier with a candle on the desk and with vintage machines is just an illusion. You've been to H. Moser just recently.
Yes.
And this is super modern.
Oh, absolutely.
The
State of the art.
Yeah. And it's the same with Vacheron. They have state-of-the-art machine. They have CAD, computer-controlled milling machines, 3-axis, 5-axis. They have everything there. It has nothing to do with traditional watchmaking from the 1970s anymore. And then the watchmakers start to finish the movement parts, just like they did back then.
Yeah.
But yeah, Vacheron is lucky enough to have an uninterrupted history. But what does it say? Does that make Vacheron better than Lange?
In my opinion, not at all. I mean, the uninterrupted history is not a valid argument, for quality of a product. I mean, I am very, 1, 2, 3 person, being Swiss. I just look at the product. If it's a good product, I like it. If it's shit, then it's shit, right?
I totally agree with you.
Yeah. I understand the sexiness behind, this brand has been making watches traditionally since, centuries ago. But, it's the same for Breguet. Breguet, they do benefit from the name, Breguet, who is the one of the most famous watchmakers in history. And look, Breguet isn't the most successful brand out there, right?
Yes, but Breguet is also a kind of Phoenix brand because
yes, absolutely.
Breguet was dead. Yeah, it was dead. They were selling a couple of pocket watches in the 1970s before the Chaumet brothers acquired the company. And maybe later we can talk about Monsieur Daniel Roth, who basically created what Breguet is still today. But Breguet is by that crazy definition is a Phoenix brand. More or less. They've not been totally dead, but they've been almost dead. So what difference does it make?
Absolutely. In my opinion, it doesn't make any difference. I don't even think about this. It doesn't even, goes through my mind, when I think of do I like a watch or not.
Yeah, but it annoys me that I'm hearing Phoenix brands over and over, and particularly, in that context, Gégé Lecoultre was mentioned. Gégé Lecoultre was dead in 1977 before VDO bought them out from basically the family of the management board. Gégé Lecoultre was dead.
Yeah.
And Omega, for example, was dead. We had a quartz crisis in the mid-70s.
Jay says it. Almost all Swiss watches are Phoenix brands. Lol, just fancy historic and romantic stories. I do agree. As John just said, we went through the quartz crisis, and so many watch brands died, just died, and nobody remembers them. Like 80% of watch brands were just deleted during the watch crisis, the quartz crisis.
That is a very good point, because that is another issue or pet peeve that I have when people are talking about shitter brands. I remember the mid-70s, and I started 1984 selling watches, and I could feel the aftermath of the quartz crisis. And I know so many families in Switzerland basically lost their income because the fathers who used to work for the Swiss watch companies were unemployed because companies were folding. And I know that those people are good people. They try their best. The fact that they don't have the hottest model just today doesn't mean that the company is bad. The company consists of people who are trying their best. And I would say almost everybody in Switzerland, in the Swiss watch industry, are trying their best. And I have total respect for that. It fills my heart with joy to hear that the Blue Dial Laureato is becoming now unavailable, because Girard-Perregaux was struggling for decades, and they were the first ones who made in-house movements, and they still struggled because they didn't land a hit. They were faithful to the Laureato for decades. And I'm very happy for them that now, maybe the first time in the history, they cannot supply the demand of a certain watch. Absolutely fantastic. Captain has a very good point. Patek Philippe was basically saved by the Stern family, and later Patek Philippe was basically saved by Tiffany's. That is why we see that Tiffany dial Nautilus, because Patek Philippe was in tremendous trouble, and basically a big order by Tiffany saved them, and that makes the special connection between Patek Philippe and Tiffany.
Yeah.
Look. So we should be very careful in being judgmental of brands that have been dead or have been struggling, because if you look back in the history of certain watch brands, you can see that basically every watch company struggled. And the best example, in my opinion, is Omega. Because Omega was terribly struggling with quartz watches, and Omega was saved by a plastic quartz watch called the Swatch.
Yeah.
If the Swatch wouldn't be there, Omega probably wouldn't be there, and large parts of the Swiss watch industry wouldn't be there. So there you go with the history and the long-lasting tradition and everything. A cheap plastic quartz watch basically saved the Swiss asses.
Absolutely. And I 100% agree with Dangerous comment. It's not that important if you put out amazing quality. Look, if tomorrow a brand that used to make only shit watches come out with something amazing, I won't have any prejudice and I will call it amazing. Right? Because
actually I had big problems with Chapek, because from what I heard about Chapek was that they were a startup, and I was very reserved until I heard that Chapek CEO talking to us.
Yes,
on
I
that live
remember that night during the New York Fair, right?
Yeah,
New York Watch Fair.
Well, you remember Audrey more than the
But I do
Chapek.
remember our little conversation with
Yes.
Chapek CEO. Yes.
Yeah, that was amazing, and that basically opened my mind for the brand. And now I ordered one. So it is the people, and Chapek is a young brand. They're 10 years old or something like that, but their products are amazing. So why being snobbish or arrogant against a watch company that has fantastic products but not so long history?
Yeah. For me, the best example, and this is why I was struggling with the sharing the video before, it is when Jean-Claude Biver revived the Blancpain watch brand. Can we maybe play the video? There's a beautiful interview by Hodinky when he talks exactly about that moment when he bought the name, so just the name Blancpain that nobody was using.
I'll roll a little bit back. Okay.
Let's listen.
So I'm starting now.
Yeah.
Piaget, Jacques, I know because I saw it at Omega. Omega owns a brand that is the oldest watch brand in the world called Blancpain. And I know because Omega is going under restructurations. They lose money. They are going to be restructured. And I said we should try to buy from these guys the name Blancpain, because since 1959, they are not using this name anymore. And Jacques Piaget finally succeeded, end of 81, to buy the name Blancpain for 22,000 Swiss francs. When that was done, I left Omega and I started to rethink, redevelop Blancpain in a total other price segment. Blancpain had never been as prestigious. Blancpain had never been so round and classic.
And what was the first watch you developed at Blancpain?
It was the moon phase.
The moon phase.
You know, in 1982, when everybody was running into quartz, the moon phase look, because of the moon and day, date, months, this indication were a little bit nostalgic. People said, what's that? This looks like an old watch. It was somehow disruptive compared to the quartz watches that Patek, AP, even Rolex tried to make quartz. And we were the first ones to say, since 1735, there has never been the Blancpain in quartz, and there will never be one. That was the headline of our advertisement.
Yeah, and it worked.
In 82, we started in 82. I think we sold 97 watches in 1992. We sold Blancpain for 60 million to Swatch.
So you invested 22,000 and got 60 million.
Out of it.
That's a pretty good return.
It's a very good return. If we would have kept the brand, we could have got more.
So this watch here, this
I think it's
very
good.
first.
So see, man, I love this man so much. He's such a genius. So he bought the name of the brand, Blancpain, for 22,000 Swiss francs. That was, nobody was using it at the time for like 20 years. They weren't producing any watches under the Blancpain name. Bought it, completely changed the idea. They were making, the 50 talons, the dive watches. He said, now Blancpain is going to be an ultra prestigious dress watch, with perpetual calendars, calendar chrono, minute repeater, exactly during the quartz crisis.
After the quartz crisis. But
just after the quartz. I mean,
nobody believed in mechanical watches.
The balls of steel that this guy had. So as he said, the very first year they sold 80 watches.
I
And
think I've been telling the story. We had Blancpain, and Mr. Jean-Claude Biver visited us and invited us for dinner, and we had to borrow from another store 2 watches because we only had one Blancpain, because nobody was confident in the brand, and we had to borrow 2 more watches just to have a group of 3 watches in our window.
I mean, this is crazy. And it went so successful that years later, when he sold back the brand to Swatch, he sold it for 60 million. I mean,
yeah,
that is a genius move. I mean, Jean-Claude Biver is a genius. And then he did the same thing with Hublot. I mean,
yeah, but I remember the next year he visited us again, and he told us, "I'm going to make a Grande Complication with minute repeater, with a rattrapant chronograph, with a tourbillon, and a perpetual calendar." And everybody thought this guy is totally crazy. And a couple of years later, he made the 1735, and we all could see that he was not joking. He was dead serious. I would like to make another tangent of a part of that conversation where basically it was said, yeah, a brand of Moritz Grossmann, they're new, and with today's technology, everybody can make fantastic watches. And I would say, yes, you have those 5-axis, 6-axis, I don't know how many axis machines that can make crazy things. By the way, there were no tourbillon wristwatches before AP made the tourbillon wristwatch in 1996, if I remember correct. 1996? I think 1996. And they were only able to achieve that, the tourbillon wristwatch, because of advanced methodology of production. No, it was the ugly square one.
I see which one you're talking about. Yeah, that one.
Yes, so that was the first tourbillon wristwatch that was available on the market, and they incorporated a technology called electroerosion, and that enabled them to make such a tiny and light tourbillon. Before, there never was a tourbillon for the wristwatch, and after that, then tourbillons came from Breguet and from AP and from IWC and others. But basically, only modern technology made it possible that those tourbillons exist today. So, in my opinion, it's a moot point to say, yeah, with today's technology, everybody can do it. It's not that easy. And particularly Moritz Grossmann has such a high level of hand finishing. They're making so fantastic movements, and they put such a lot of work and soul into their product. It is not only firing up a CNC machine and produce them. It's not that easy. And so, yes, Moritz Grossmann is a young company, but what they achieved is highly respectable and doesn't deserve this kind of talk.
I agree.
Same with Japek.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with what you say. The original OC says, Biver has an amazing carry. I hope his new watch venture is a colossal failure. Why?
I think he wants to.
I hope he makes amazing watches.
No. He does. He started something new. I think under his own name or something.
Yes, he wants. So he is recruiting right now to make his own brand, the Jean-Claude Biver watch line. I hope it's going to be amazing. I mean, I can only think that he will do, the very, very prestigious watches.
Oh, see, why do you want him to fail? Is it because he's targeting a certain clientele? I have not enough. I have not heard enough from his new venture. I just heard that he's doing his own watches now.
Yeah.
But I've
Yeah,
not
he
heard nothing.
didn't release, too much information. Just that he is recruiting only the best watchmakers.
Jean-Claude Biver and friends.
Yes.
OC says about Moritz Grossmann and call me gullible, but I actually like their gimmick setting the watch. I totally agree. And, they put a lot of effort in trying to be better than others and different. And in my opinion, that's all what counts. If it's beautiful and if it's nice. You can try to be different and be a total failure, but the end product here is so beautiful.
So, because I think of Biver as a businessman, he's just looking to cash in on his career.
I totally disagree with you.
I urge you, original OC, to go watch one of his talks. I think it was at the Dubai show. A talk from Jean-Claude Biver. Amazing. It's like 30 minutes long. It's one of the best talks I've ever heard in watchmaking. Him and Max Busser.
Yeah.
Both of them are horological fanatics, and you can just hear the passion he has for watchmaking. I'm gonna search for the link to this video because it has to be seen. Give me
Jean-Claude Biver is a total watch guy, but he's also a very clever businessman. Of course, he can sell his products very well and he can market them very well. But in his heart and in his soul, he's a watch guy, and he has my highest respect. J617 asks a question: Do you think CNC parts, even if they are made in Switzerland, will ruin the heritage and prestige of Swiss watchmaking? I don't think so, because you produce a CNC part, but the decoration is all what counts, and the combination of traditional watchmaking skills, that is what counts. So I'm pretty sure Moritz Grossmann is producing the raw parts here of that bridge and maybe that balance cock with the CNC machine. I'm pretty sure they do. But then the hand finishing, all the craftsmen are starting to work on those machined parts, and that is what counts. And if you watch the aisles of Swiss watch manufacturers, be it Rolex, be it AP, be it Patek Philippe, you will see those CNC machines over and over everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in today's world, it would be stupid not to use all these assets, right? I mean, unless you want to make some crazy project like the handmade watch by Greubel Forsey, where they even did not use modern blueprints because that was not, it was not historically used.
Actually, that is. I wanted to go to Greubel Forsey, who, in my opinion, make the best watches out there. In my opinion, Greubel Forsey is the best watchmaking company out there at the moment. Nobody beats them. Could you agree with that, Swis?
I do agree.
Regardless of the price, they are the best, the absolute best, and they have CNC machines, of course. But then the artisans are starting to work, and the results are mind-blowing. And the one exception, like you mentioned, is that handmade one. What is the exact name? Something with one.
Yeah, let's see. So Greubel Forsey handmade. I think it's handmade number 1. Handmade one, just handmade one.
I'm reading now on Greubel Forsey that they are producing 2 to 3 every year. I know that this started as a one-off,
Yep.
but now on their webpage they say they're producing 2 to 3 per year.
This is such a crazy watch. The
Yes.
captain had it in his hand. I am
Really?
so fucking jealous. Yeah, the London. They have it in New York. In New York.
The captain had the date with Audrey, and he had this watch in hands. I hate that captain.
Yes.
I can't do anything than hating the captain for that.
Yeah, this is amazing. But you know, I also really like so Vacheron, when they launched the 1921 watch, they also made the effort to recreate the historically accurate one of them. All by hand, using old tools that they would had in 1920s.
Did they have old parts as well? Partly.
They made it entirely. They didn't
I think
use
they had an old case laying around or something. But I may be wrong. You're the Vacheron guy, so
I'm not sure.
AK Dave says, love the precision of CNC and understand CNC lacks soul. However, yes, but that is the way of producing raw parts. Nobody sits down and starts with a sheet of brass and is starting to saw a gear out of it. That is a thing of the past. So the question is, what happens if that part is made? How is it finished? How is it adjusted? How is it put together with the others? And that is where the good companies are differentiated by the not so good companies. And for example, Patek, I accuse Patek of doing a lot of machine finishing on their parts in the sub 100K range. So I would love if they put a little bit more manual efforts into their movements in the lower category, just like Lange does with every single watch movement that they do.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the watch that you see here, so basically Greubel Forsey is only using traditional technology, which means they really saw out the bridge and then file it down to the right measurements. They are not using any CNC machines or any advanced technology, and that is truly amazing. I think they also produce the springs themselves and so on.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you know the price of this particular watch?
Let's see. About 1 million.
Okay. You know, OC, I love the guy, but OC, come on. A screw between Greubel and Forsey is bothering you on this amazing watch. No, it's all good.
We have to be nitpicking.
No. I appreciate. The OC received some very complimentary words from a person that I don't like, but he was spot on. OC sees things that we cannot. That we cannot put in words, but now that he says, we realize that probably it's wrong, and he has a point. So he's a very good observer and puts his observations into words. He's very good with that, and I'll give him that.
Yeah. I mean, this watch
I've been too friendly to OC now.
This watch is not about the watch itself. It's more about the power move that it represents, right?
Yes, but also, you know, it's fantastic that a watch company says, okay, we're doing something totally crazy now. Doesn't matter if we are making money out of it. We're just showing what we're able to do.
Yeah, absolutely. There's
Captain is catching up. I hate you too.
There you go.
So should we open the panel for eventual guests?
Of course.
Or,
if someone wants to join us quickly, or maybe for a after show, here is the link. We have been going for 50 minutes now.
The viewer numbers have dropped.
Yeah, maybe someone else is live. Who knows?
Yeah.
Let me see if I can see some last minute questions that we might have missed. Maybe more up in the comments. Rolex's highest level of manufacturing and industry. No brands come close to their robotics, but they also employ the lowest amount of hand finishing strained industry. Yeah, well,
100%
Rolex
true.
is not known for their hand finishing. It's more about, owning a Rolex.
But let's keep in mind how we all started, or most of us started. When we started, luxury prestige watches were Rolex, and it came to a shock to most of us to hear that Rolex doesn't have the best finishing in their movements. To me, it was a total shock, because I thought Rolex would be the top brand, and it was basically shocking to me to learn about brands of Audemars Piguet or Patek Philippe, brands that I'd never heard of. So we have a person that I
have a guest with us.
Even hate more.
Hey, Captain, how are you doing, my friend?
You are an absolute legend.
Oh, thank you very much.
Absolute legend. And Jonathan, yes, we both. The feeling is mutual, my friend.
So let's be clear. I remember you had this watch, right, in front of you.
I did, and not only did I have it on my wrist, I posted it on my Instagram. That's Captain Subby for all of the viewers. I posted it for the viewers, pleasure. I had no idea. My hand was literally shaking when I had it on, because I knew it was a very expensive piece. I didn't know the piece when the folks at the Greubel Forsey booth, this gentleman was working behind the booth or counter, unveiled this piece. And to me, I mean, you could tell it was very special. And that plate is all gold. That's on the that's I guess the dial. And yeah, there's a whole series. I think, Swis, you watched it. It's in French, so I couldn't understand a word that they were saying.
Yes.
Turtle Knight made a comment that I purposely excluded Vacheron from the top list of watches. Well, it's very easy to be explained. I started in watches in 1984, and Vacheron was dead. We didn't have Vacheron in our shop, and as far as I know, nobody even had Vacheron in Germany. So I didn't know. But Vacheron is part of the Holy Trinity. I heard that discussion as well, and well, times have changed, because the Holy Trinity was basically invented before 1945, let's say it like that, when watches were produced the traditional kind of way. We've been talking about the first tourbillon and the use of modern technology to produce watches. Mm-hmm. So the Holy Trinity was basically before the CNC machines, before the electro erosion machines have been invented. And since then, you could see those crazy designs which have been used with the aid of a computer, machinery that is controlled by computers. But that modern technology makes things possible that were unthinkable before. So companies like Max Büsse and Friends, or Uhrwerk or others, are new technology-driven companies. Doesn't make them worse than Patek Philippe just because they don't have the heritage, in my opinion. Sorry, Captain, I interrupted you.
Oh, no, not at all. But yeah, I mean, this watch is incredible. It is a piece of art. There's no question about it. it's beautiful. It's also hefty. If you look at the thickness, I don't know the exact dimensions of it, but this is a substantial watch on your wrist. You feel, I guess it's kind of Lange-esque in that regard, where it just feels expensive, if that makes sense.
Just like the Mercedes door.
Yeah, like the Mercedes door, like I guess almost any Lange. They're just, the quality is there, like the just build quality, and it's substantial. And I think, for me, I like that. I know that there's obviously a lot of Pateks and so many other watches where lightness is important. I mean, you just go to Richard Mille. Let's not get into value of those, though. That discussion. Where they go the other way with kind of super light, super sporty, titanium watches. This is the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Guys.
And I was thinking about how to make. I was thinking, between Audrey and the security involved, and how I can get out. It seemed like I could just walk out with this piece. I mean, I doubt it. I'm sure that there would be 10 people jumping on me, and I would never do that, obviously. But it was just a strange feeling to have $1 million plus piece on your wrist, being able to take photos, and it was surreal. But look, Beauvais, some of those watches were in the couple,
600 or something.
Yeah, 500,000.
I mean, I remember when Tim had the Acrivia in hand, and the guy,
the guy
just disappeared, and he was with the Acrivia, like,
oh yeah, the Acrivia.
Where's the guy? And we were like, quick, run!
Incredible.
It is your moment. I mean, even you remember the Lange stand had many beautiful watches. The the Handwerkskunst, and you could try them all on your hand, no problem.
That is so amazing, because I remember when Basel was still the main event for the watch industry, you had to have appointment. You had to be an AD to even get access to their booth. So the normal public would never have come as close to the watches, just like in New York, for example. And
yeah. So Jonathan, speaking of Lange, my understanding now is that they don't have really a lot or any pieces that are available now at their boutiques or ADs.
I'm hearing that too. Yes, that people are having difficulties to even see pieces at the moment.
Well, that may have been the Zeitwerk. All Zeitwerks are no longer available.
I'm hearing of ADs and boutiques who basically have 4 watches on stock. So it's not only
the boutique in Geneva is now appointment only.
Okay. Wow. I hope that this is a sign that Lange will come out with amazing pieces next week and will flood the boutiques with the novelties, and we will discuss those pieces over and over.
Absolutely.
Well,
Captain, are you in the market for Lange?
I've always thought about it. So yeah, at some point it will happen. But the interestingly enough, and it may have been, I don't think it was through GMT, but when I had that Zeitwerk date,
look at that,
on my wrist at the the New York show.
Yeah.
It really, I hate to use the word spoke to me. It's cliche. It moved me, but it was,
you clicked.
It clicked. It just, I thought it was really cool and kind of a substantial yet sporty and kind of in I don't know what the right word is. Just, it's like an imposing piece in a way, but it's just like when you feel it on your wrist, you're just like, yeah, this is worth the amount that they're going for. Plus, then I watched a video of it and the technology and process that they had to go through to create it. And I know that it's not your favorite Lange, maybe in terms of the dial and the design and the digital time.
But the technology is amazing, absolutely.
Right, and so that's, I think that's very impressive for for the watch. Now, unfortunately, I happen to like the most expensive one in terms of not the most expensive, because I guess they have that
the miniature repeater,
the Lume, yeah,
yeah, the Lumen as well, yeah,
yeah, the Lumen. But in terms of whether I prefer the black dial Zeitwerk or the Zeitwerk date, because of this color combination as well, was also something that really I was drawn to. Kind of with the grayish and the metallic, and then you have the date on the outer portion of the dial. Super impressed.
Yeah, we have a comment by Mr. Copper Blue. Holy Trinity was just made up by people on watch forums. I disagree with you, because when I entered the business in 1984, people were talking about the Holy Trinity already. So this has nothing to do with the internet. The Holy Trinity has been the talk of the trade for much longer than that.
Now, what's interesting, though, about that is, so Vacheron's part of the Holy Trinity, and as Swis and you said, that they trace their origins back to the 1700s, right? Is that what you said? 17 something?
Yes.
But they're acquired by Richemont. So as much as I hear, they're allowed to run independently and all this nonsense, like, the fact is that they're owned by a watch conglomerate called Richemont. So, where does that change in terms of, they were the Trinity, now they're acquired? It goes to, Jonathan, your point, and Swis, on Phoenix brands, and like whether we care or not. I don't really care, but when people start saying, they go back and trace Vacheron's history, I'm like, yeah, and part of that is that they've been acquired. But like you guys said, almost no families other than perhaps Audemars Piguet, and there's certainly others out there, I'm sure. But I think Audemars Piguet has that, and well, I guess no. See, Rolex is a foundation.
Rolex.
Look,
yeah.
To me, it always comes back to this. It is not that important if you put out amazing quality.
Yeah,
right.
As long as they do amazing watches, they could be owned by a conglomerate. They could be independent. I don't give a shit. As long as they make amazing work, I'm happy.
Right. And if someone really has the idea in mind that a watchmaker is sitting in a in a small room with desk with wooden panel on the walls, and have a candle to light his workbench, and he's filing on a watch part for the entire day, just have a look into a modern watch company, or in any watch company. Watches are produced totally differently.
Yeah,
even the high-end ones.
Mm.
And there are videos out there from Greubel Forsey, and it looks like a modern tech company. There are videos from Chapek where you can see where their suppliers are and how they work, and that's how watches are produced in those days.
Yeah. So Mr. Copper Blue says FP Jaune and Lange are far higher end brands than any so-called Trinity brands. Yes and no. It depends when you look at the the lower bracket of the brands and the higher brackets. So for FP Jaune and also Lange, it is true for the lower end prices of the brands, especially now Vacheron. Which uses that Val Fleurier movement in the 56 collection. But I think when it comes to very high-end quality pieces like minute repeaters and tourbillons, I think Vacheron, AP, and Patek all outclass even FP Jaune. Like a minute repeater from FP Jaune and a minute repeater from Patek Philippe, I think Patek Philippe will have more work and more high-end finishing than the FP Jaune. But that is just my observation. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, but I partly agree with you on the top, very high end. Patek is still amazing company. I also like the cloisonné dial on the world time, for example, which is really outstanding. Yeah, but on the lower bracket, just like I said, below 100K, Patek became a little bit lazy, in my opinion.
Yeah, let's be fair. Or all three brands became a little bit
Yes.
lazy, but yeah.
Yeah, the original OC said he started a big fight on the AC3 show last night about the Holy Trinity. Yes, I've observed that.
What was it?
Yeah, I admit, but I'm always down to watch some good watch drama with OC.
Well, the question was, should Vacheron, now that they got acquired by Richemont, should be dropped out the Holy Trinity, basically saying the definition of Holy Trinity must be that they are independent brands.
Who said that?
Well, that was put out there. It was a very confusing discussion with a lot of angles and knowledge and non-knowledge. In my opinion, it doesn't really matter, because the Holy Trinity, like I said, is a thing of the past, and modern technology made this definition basically obsolete, because you have some amazing brands that are using modern technology, but then put their artisan work on top, and they can outperform the Holy Trinity brands.
Well, but still, though, I mean, from a kind of marketing perspective, and I don't think the Trinity brands actually, well, maybe they do, I don't know, but do they even use the term Holy Trinity? Do they refer to themselves at all as one of the Trinity brands, or it's all just, the watch community and the watch collector?
They never ever used it in marketing.
Right.
I don't know if they use it, when they casual talk about,
right.
But
it does influence a lot of folks' decision making, I guess, if they were choosing one brand versus the other, because it's out there in the public. People are thinking, well, if I'm going to spend X amount of money, it's a Trinity brand. I want one of the Holy Trinity. It is put out there. Even for me, people are saying, complete the Trinity, get a Vacheron. You must complete the Trinity. It's kind of like a mission. And I'm like, well, I love Vacheron. I don't own one, but why do I must complete the Trinity? It's not like I can buy, let me buy the VC and then I'll buy a Lange and then I'll get another Patek. I mean, there are limits to, how many watches I want to have and resources.
But Swis, haven't you seen the sign in Geneva where the annual Holy Trinity meeting is set up with the flags and with the signs? Here, that way, to this hotel, there is a Holy Trinity meetup.
No,
I'm just joking.
Okay, I was like, wait, really?
No.
But to go further into what you were saying, Jonathan, with modern technology, everybody can be, better than anybody else. And it is true. Look at what Vacheron is doing with the cabinotier pieces. They say, we can make you the very best watch, completely bespoke, as you wanted, the very best watch, as long as you pay the millions and you give us some time, we will make you the very best watch ever.
But they use a computer for the construction.
Yeah, exactly. Because they now can make everything with the computer, and they can use modern technology and everything, as long as you pay the check, because they also have all the know-how, they have the workforce. As long as you pay the check, you can have the best watch ever. And that's what they did with pocket watches.
We welcome the original OC here on the show.
Hey,
let's be careful, because OC has a tendency to stir up and cause trouble. So wow. I have the ban button on you already, OC. No, I'm just joking.
I would expect no less.
Jonathan. Okay. Welcome to the show.
Good to be with you. Yeah, I didn't want to talk watches because you guys are so smart on all those topics, and especially if there's a Zeitwerk on the screen, there's very little I can contribute, and you don't want to hear my opinion about it anyway. But I did want to comment a little bit about some of the watch industry statistics that you pulled up earlier, because I think you glazed over, some super important highlights, which actually aren't kind of contained in this chart, but they're in other data that was released by Morgan Stanley around the same time. And that is a couple of points from my perspective. First of all, Breitling is doing very, very well under George Kern. I mean, they are...
and they have started. They just have started.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No. As you can see, if you look on the left there from 2007, you can see them in the 15th position, and you see them over the past 5 years increasing to the 11th position, and that's by value. So not only are units going up, but the dollar value of the units that they're selling is going up, and that's extremely hard to do. I mean, to make inroads, even brands that are doing very well, like Omega, are dropping places, and Patek is dropping places.
Jaeger LeCoultre is dropping.
And
Jaeger LeCoultre, the exact opposite.
So Breitling is a brand that grew 40% year over year. That's something that even coming out of 2020 is an amazing accomplishment. I think you glossed over Richard Mille there, and because they're not a show favorite, and I totally get that. But what they're doing from a business perspective is astonishing. They grew from approximately $800 million in revenue to 1.1 billion. 30 to 40% growth.
Yeah.
And that's not. It's easy to understand because their watches are super expensive. But I think the average selling price of a Richard Mille went from 180,000 to 225,000 in 1 year.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable. You guys talked a little bit about Cartier jumping to number 2. They jumped to number 2. I think you guys nailed it on the strength of the Santos and the fact that so many that men are now gravitating to the brand, and a lot of secondary resellers and jewelers are buying those entry-level Santoses and icing them out for the younger generation, for people who want super iced out watches.
Yeah, but that is a US thing.
It is a US thing. But the US market accounts for a tremendous amount of the growth in the Swiss market. So just you may not be aware, but let me just double check my statistics. 2022 versus 2020, Swiss exports to the United States market have increased by 34%.
Yep.
So the Swiss industry is absolutely flooding the US market with goods because we're gobbling them all up. And of course, the world's second biggest market is China, but they're growing even faster. The shipments from Switzerland to China have literally doubled in the past 2 years, which is, at a scale that is just insane. So,
yeah, but there is an explanation for that, because the big market, Hong Kong, doesn't play a role since 2 years because Chinese can't travel to Hong Kong to buy watches. So that is why the Swiss watch industry are now shipping the watches directly to China instead of catering the Hong Kong market so much.
That was true last year, but Hong Kong shipments to Hong Kong are flat from 2 years ago. So they haven't gone up, but they were significantly down, but now they've made up that and they're basically status quo from where they were 2 years ago. So that China increase is a net increase. So the Swiss market is absolutely flooding China with watches. And then the other thing that I think is apparent is that the brands that sell watches that retail for under $6,000 are all losing ground rapidly. Yeah. And that's no surprise. And the brands that sell expensive watches that sell for $6,000, $10,000, $20,000 or more, they're all growing much faster than the industry average.
So, OC, do you think that Omega will be able to make a position change in next year or this year?
Well, the difference between Cartier and Omega is only 30,000 watches. So, and the difference in revenue is they're basically even. The only reason why Cartier inched out Omega is because Cartier grew at 40% and Omega grew at like 35%. So it's just, they were neck and neck before. So it's just a very subtle flipping of position. But Cartier is doing really well. They both sell about 600,000 watches a year, which is incredible. I mean, for both of those brands to sell 30 or 40% more than last year, I mean, these are amazing times for the Swiss watch industry.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I would love to own a Swiss watch brand, and more and more Swiss watch companies are in a position that they have to worry about catering the demand. They don't have to find the demand anymore. The demand is overflooding them, and basically they are just allocating the supply, which
Correct.
is a great place to be in when you're selling products.
Totally. I mean, so there are brands that are struggling there. I mean, Breguet and Blancpain and Jaeger-LeCoultre are not doing as well as their peers. You can see JLC falling from 11 to 15 over the past 5 years. They, you know, to some regard, they're like a one-trick pony. You know, it's the Reverso, and the Reverso's sales have been, you know, the Santos is a fair competitor in that kind of square, different, you know, dressy sports watch space and men are gravitating to the Cartier. I
have one disagreement with you, Swis. Are you able to pull up the market share? Because from what I remember, the market share of Cartier was significantly higher compared to Omega. No, that was last year. Do you have the same diagram?
Yeah,
I think that was 2020.
Let me Bobby Google this.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second.
You want to see the current one for 2021?
2021. Yeah. No, 2021. I think 2022 is too early to determine right now.
Gotcha. But the report came out in 2022, so for 2021.
Yes.
And then so you want to see the data for 2020?
Yes.
Because number of units or turnover or what for Omega?
Turnover.
Turnover was 1.75 billion Swiss francs for Omega last year.
Yeah. And Cartier?
Cartier, right neck and neck, 1.6 versus 1.75.
Okay. Because what I remember was the market share was some digits higher for Cartier, but I may remember that wrongly.
Cartier is a little bit more.
Okay.
You know, it's interesting though, because and I still have to read the report. I haven't. It sounds like OC, you've dug into it. But let me ask you this, because I thought I read that the numbers that Morgan Stanley, how do they obtain their numbers? Because they're not getting them from the companies, right? They're not turning over. Rolex is not opening the kimono and saying, here are all my revenue numbers, and I thought they were basing it on some other metric or some other public reports, maybe from the Swiss watch industry itself, and then extrapolating from there.
Yeah, I haven't looked into that deeply. You know,
Okay.
We get so little information about Rolex and the Swiss brands that anything that we get, we gobble up, and we don't.
I know. Well, I know. And I don't want to dive too much into that, but it makes such a difference because perception becomes kind of reality in a way. It almost becomes, everyone talks about it because Morgan Stanley, you know, puts their name on the report, and then now it's like, wow, Cartier is the headline news is Cartier overtakes Omega, even though it's, you know, the numbers are pretty tight. But it matters because you know, now they're number 2, Omega's 3. We'll see where it goes from here. But Rolex is 1 and Breitling's moving up. I never thought I'd buy a Breitling. I was just looking for kind of a lighter sport watch.
Yeah, and the key takeaway from the report from a Rolex perspective, defies logic, actually, because they show such a massive increase in revenue for Rolex year over year, from like 4 billion to 8 billion or something like
that jumped.
Oh my
massive
God.
jump.
Wow.
And they tried to explain it as, well, it's a different mix of product, much more precious metal and more allocation of, it's hard to explain, actually. It defies logic how they came up with that massive jump. So
well,
definitely take it with a grain of salt.
In my opinion, that jump is a result in Rolex pushing two-tones and precious metals compared to stainless steel.
Yeah.
And
I think that's 100%
that has
right.
been their goal for many years, for 20, 25 years, and they finally made it.
I mean, I'll use myself anecdotally. This is by no means like scientifically proven, but I was allocated 2 pieces in the last 2 years. Both of them were two-tone pieces. These are the only ones I could get. One was the Submariner, the black and gold, so-called Bumblebee. And then the other one was the, what I'm wearing right now, the Root Beer. I always forget it's crazy. Both two-tone. So they weren't offering me steel pieces. They didn't say, and people get the, the Batmans and everything else. But, for me, it was both two-tones, and they make more margin, because those were in the 14, 15,000 range as opposed to 10,000. So there's a number. And also maybe the numbers in 2020, didn't the pandemic, really maybe shock the system and everyone retrenched for a while, and maybe that skewed all of the numbers lower for 2020?
For 2020, there was a 2-month pause in production, which was, due to COVID, which resulted in, like, let's take Rolex, for example, normally selling or manufacturing approximately 1 million units a year, that number being reduced to 810. And now they've come roaring back, and the estimate for last year was 1.05 million. So to go from 800,000 to 1 million in a year, which is their normal production capacity, but it's a big increase in number of units from the previous year. And then one final brand that I wanted to talk about, and it's Rolex related, is Tudor. Tudor has had amazing few years, and what's fascinating is everyone always talks about, why can't Rolex increase production? Why are the products so scarce at the authorized dealers? Can't they increase production from 1 million to say 1.25 and really, make sure that lots of people have access to watches? Well, they're actually doing that with Tudor. Tudor, 2 years ago was selling under 200,000 units a year, and the estimate for last year was 300,000 units. So they've increased availability by 50% in the market. And where's that production capacity coming from? We know that they have a new factory that they're building that Rolex is funding, that is a Canisi factory, which I think you guys have to help me out, but I think Tudor owns 50% of it and Canisi owns 50% of it, or
as
some
far
kind
as
of
I know, yes.
weird arrangement. And
Breitling is also part. Yeah.
And Breitling may be a part of it, but they're able to build a new facility and make a lot more units. So that's good for them. They're growing. They are the fastest growing, near luxury or luxury Swiss brand in terms of, percentage wise.
Yep. Okay. Too much numbers talk.
Too much numbers. Go back
the viewer numbers go down. I would like to close.
No, the viewer numbers went down when the Zeitwerk was on the screen. It plummeted down. Now we're actually gaining viewers now.
Nice try. I would like to ask the panel: have you guys seen that Tudor article on Hodinkee that was just published a couple of hours ago?
I saw that it was released, but I haven't had a chance to read it. And it's basically an article on the 10-year anniversary of the introduction of the Black Bay brand.
Yep, and they brought their best 10 articles about Tudor, and I must admit I haven't seen it. There is an amazing video story about a Tudor that belonged to a soldier in Vietnam.
I remember that one when they made the video. Yeah.
Yeah, he got shot, and basically the bullet hit his wrist and the watch, and he was down, and the doctor took him then on a helicopter, and the doctor asked him, what should I do with your watch, because it was just hanging there, and he said, keep it. And 50 years later, that doctor started to research the guy, and he found him, and the watch has been returned exactly 50 years after the soldier in Vietnam lost it. And so he had been reunited with the watch, and it was a very touching and heartwarming story.
I'm feeling all warm and fuzzy already.
Gave
so
me
I'm posting the link to this particular article just right now in the comments.
They made a full video out of it.
Yes.
If you search it on YouTube, it's actually quite nice. Yeah.
I put the link down in the comments.
Speaking of Tudor, so I'll let you guys know. And Jonathan, I know you are a proud owner of Ming. I was explaining. I am not. I was exploring trading my two Tudors, the GMT and the Black Bay 58, the original, with the gilt, for the Ming 27.02 and plus probably cash. And the dealer that I was working with, I sent photos of the Black Bay 58, and I think that they just had some dust on my camera lens on my iPhone. And he said, oh, there's scratches or chips in the bezel, so I'm not interested in the Black Bay 58, blah, blah, blah. So I was personally insulted because there was no scratch on the bezel. I barely wore the watches. They were in pristine condition. But anyhow, that was my idea to get the Ming. OC, what do you think of Ming? What do you think of this Ming?
I love this
a bad idea.
It reminds me very much of a Movado, which I love. So the simplicity of the dial. So I actually like this Ming.
Yeah, but the comparison to the Movado. So yeah, Swis, let's put a reminder on the show never to let the OC on again for mentioning Movado.
I think he's trolling.
Yeah. He's on his way out already.
Well, the movement is based on the ETA 7. It is the ETA 7001, but it was modified or heavily modified by Schwartz Etienne. So it's actually quite nice. I think it looks really good.
So you were willing to trade two of your Tudors against this particular Ming, correct?
That was the idea. Yes, I didn't pull the trigger. So I it would have been interesting because I'm not. They were asking about $7,700 for this Ming. This Ming went for 5,000 or so Swiss francs. What was it, a year or so ago when they released it, and now
that was the retail price, 5,000,
something around there. Yeah, maybe 5,250 Swiss francs. So you add what, $500 US. But now they're at let's call it 7,500 to 8,000 on the gray market.
Do you want a comment if we find that idea good or insane, or?
Yeah, I mean, just generally, what you
in my opinion,
what do you think?
In my opinion, Mings only makes sense at retail if you're able to get one. I would not trade two Tudors against this particular Ming if it was me.
Thank you, appreciate that.
I mean, you have to know, I always say this every time. You have to know what you are looking for, because there are two totally different watches that would bring you totally different experiences. If you want to get between the Tudor and the Ming.
And the Movado experience.
Yeah. Well, that kind of kills it, to be quite honest.
But why would it kill it? Look at the dial. That's a compliment. The simplicity of the dial.
It is, but
I think it's beautiful.
I do too. That's the thing. I mean, I'm trying.
And you should think a classic Movado museum watch is beautiful, which I do.
Yeah, I don't know much about Movados other than in college. I think a friend of mine got his girlfriend a Movado. and it was the biggest. It was the biggest deal. You know what I'm saying? It was like I got her a Movado. So proud.
Swis, we must select our guests a little bit more careful. We don't want this Movado talk here on this channel.
Yeah, I
No,
think
I'm
it's,
just
I think it's
joking.
I think it's really. I think it's. I do think it's beautiful. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
And you also have to understand, like with the Tudor GMT, I got that because I wanted a GMT in my collection. I was searching for a while, and I had decided that would be the one to get.
Yeah.
And then right after that, I ended up getting the root beer and the call from the AD. So it made it kind of superfluous in the collection. And it's I still think it's a quality watch. You know, I think the movement is very good. You know, the bezel is, you know, the Pepsi colors. It's really nice. It's very thick. The Black Bay 58 is too small for me.
I tell you why I don't like this watch. Just to stir up some controversy.
Okay.
In my opinion, the Ming case is a standard case. They use this case shape all the time for every single watch.
True.
And so with that standard case, I expect something amazing inside on the dial. And that it disappoints me that there is nothing really special going on the dial, just compared to that moon phase that we've been recently talking about. But that is me. That is my personal opinion. OC, what do you think?
OC already said he loves the simplicity of the dial. I like it too. I think it's very elegant, very nice, very good looking.
I'm not a fan of the brand, but I like that particular watch. Looks good.
Well, part of the story too, OC, is the Ming. This goes back to the early days when, you know, of the you know, the Tim streams and whatnot, and everybody chasing a Ming.
Yes, they were
GMT's 38 Ming.
Yeah, you would log on and try and reserve a spot or get one of the 10 or whatever.
We would do it also. So they tried to do it on live streams as well. So I don't know if you're familiar with Mr. 2 when he was streaming a bit. He had a stream. Yeah. So it kind of goes back in time. And GMT ordered 38 of the Mings back in, this is early on in the pandemic, like March of 2020, somewhere around there, March or April.
I'm curious, the Tudor that you wanted to get rid of, what exact model was it?
Exact model. Well, one was the Black Bay 58, and the other is the Tudor GMT.
Oh, okay. So the Diet Pepsi, which is the Tudor GMT, which has been has been critically lambasted for its issue with the date wheel.
Yeah, I'd heard about that.
And then the Black Bay 58, is it the regular one or the blue one?
The regular one.
Regular
Yeah,
one.
I got that from an AD.
Which I prefer to the blue. But
yeah, it's a little small for my wrist. That's all. I think it's a quality watch. It's
but both these watches cost about $3,000. You know, secondhand.
Fair, yeah, for the most part. I think. I mean, David SW's, who I got the GMT from. It's a 2018, but it was in mint condition. He has one for sale. Not that I would get close to that. He's selling one now for $4,200. I think I paid around $3,500 from David. This is about 6 months ago. I think.
The Black Bay 58 is falling like a rock, so you'd be lucky to get
58 too. Yeah. That's why this guy didn't. I would take that in a heartbeat because this guy's making up stories about a bezel being damn. I'm like, now you pissed me off.
But
now I'll just give it away. I don't need to hear you.
Yeah, you'd be lucky to give them away. Those two are dogs. You'd be great to get rid of those two from the collection. Say goodbye to them forever and get almost anything instead of those two. So congratulations, Captain.
Yeah, I mean, do you ever use them or enjoy them? Since you had the GMT,
No, I tried to wear it. I did wear it a couple of times last week, I guess, for this nostalgia.
Because you have the sub,
but it's way too thick. It's just way too.
Tudor is literally designed to be the lesser version of the sub and the GMT. So do you see any situations and any, reasons why you should keep them?
Only if I were to gift them to my nephews. That's the only reason why I was keeping them.
I think on a different show, somebody asked me for advice, and I would say the same to you. I know that you have a couple of watches, Captain, and could you imagine one day that you have the Tudor on, and you think, I'd rather have that Tudor instead of my Submariner or my GMT? So
no
way. No
way.
Then
It's
get
not
rid
even-
of them.
Yeah, they're just taking up space.
Because basically every time you wear them, you have a better watch in mind that you'd rather wear.
Yeah, true.
So and that is an important point. So,
By the way, Chris, please, I disagree with you. Jonathan is not a snob. I enjoy his perspectives, his opinions, and most importantly, the way he says tremblage.
Thank you very much. No, OC and I, we respect each other, and we're just spicing things up.
Yeah, just win.
And I've been called worse than being a snob. So yes, Muhammad Ali posed a good question.
He's alive. That's awesome.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you at first. So his question. Sorry, I missed the Phoenix part of the show. Did you guys mention Piaget? Could they ever make a comeback? I think that is a very good question. We didn't mention Piaget?
No.
So what does the panel think?
I personally like Piaget, but both Piaget and Chopard are not well regarded in men's circles. They're known more for women's watches and for jewelry. And I happen to love the Polo S. And if I said that I liked it as an alternative to the Nautilus, I would get lots of hate in the comments and probably from the panel too.
I'll mute him here. One second.
I mean, but I actually do like it, and I do love the stuff that they do with these incredibly thin Altiplano or whatever they call it.
Yeah, but those are out of your and my pocket, aren't they?
True, but it just shows that their commitment to the craft of watchmaking is second to none. They have a team that lives, breathes, and sleeps horology, and that can't be questioned.
Yeah. I mean, we have to give them some respect for that watch right there.
I mean, come on. I mean, that's just incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible, but I agree with you. In my opinion, Piaget stands for jewelry, watches.
I mean, is it a bad thing? I think it's a good thing. I mean, the Piaget, especially as he said, the women's collection. I don't remember what's the name of the collection. That one. I think can I get a better photo? I think this collection of watches, they are fucking amazing, and they can make some beautiful gem setting.
There is beautiful gem setting, beautiful craftsmanship here on the bracelet. But it's a thing of the 1960s.
Yeah, do you know how many people still live in the 1960s? My mother would kill someone to get a watch like that. Literally. She would disown me only to use that money to buy herself this watch.
Yeah, if you gave me the choice of, and this will shock you and probably cause Jonathan to ban me permanently, but if you had four watches in front of me, a Vacheron Overseas, a Mosier Streamliner, the Girard Perregaux Laureato, and the Polo S, I'd probably pick the Polo. I would pick the Polo.
Look, I agree to this extent. When the dealer community decides that the Laureato, which I actually think is a fine watch, I don't have any problems with it at all. Why not buy that if you don't want to spend 50, 60, 70, 80,000 on the AP Royal Oak? Forget about the Nautilus prices, etc. So Piaget, and I thought that it may have been a Hodinkee. I forgot when they did compare like those. I think it was the Royal Oak, and they had Piaget, the Polo S, and another watch. I'm not sure if it was Hodinkee, but there is something on YouTube that has those watches, and it's kind of like whatever the influencers or the gray market decide that they should push, all of a sudden gets that boost, and maybe with Piaget, it's the fashion kind of women's styling that hurts the brand. But to me, it seems like it's a acceptable alternative to paying Nautilus prices.
I mean,
you know,
in my opinion, and you know, I don't see any. It's not a bad thing that, because Piaget is well known for focusing on women's watches, which until now has been mainly jewelry pieces. It's perfectly fine, and Cartier has been doing this until now perfectly. Cartier before was known as the female Rolex, and Piaget was known as the female Patek Philippe, and I think it's perfectly fine. Now we see Cartier has opened up to the men's watches with their new Santos collection, XXL blue dial for men, and they're having a huge success. Piaget might be able to do something similar. I mean, they have the Polo that it's not that successful yet. I mean, Girard-Perregaux wasn't successful, and now they cannot meet demand. So maybe Piaget can pull something similar. Who knows? I mean, it's perfectly fine in my opinion, and it doesn't make Piaget, lesser of a brand than any other brand.
So Turtle Knight commented on this watch, all I can see is 69. And I'll totally ignore OC's comment that he would prefer the Piaget Polo over the others. That is so obvious trolling that I don't bother to reply to it. I
didn't include the Nautilus in that group. So
Chris Clues says he's hearing that only 3 watchmakers are able to service those ultra thin altiplanos.
Oh,
and
this one?
Altiplano. That could be a challenge. I agree.
Probably. It's kind of the same for the JLC 101 movement. When it comes back for service, there's like a handful of people that can work on it and nobody else. Because it's so freaking small. It's small enough to be held on a ring.
Yeah.
There we have a comparison. So yeah.
Yeah. That says it all.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Okay, Swis, I think it's time to wrap this thing up. We're almost at the 2-hour mark. Much longer than we thought.
So I can post the link once again if someone wants to join us for the after show. I want to say a big thank you first of all for you, Jonathan, to be here with me tonight. And a big thanks also to the captain and the original OC for joining us and having a wonderful conversation on air. And also thank you to all the viewers and all the beautiful people out there on YouTube in the chat. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed our show today as much as we did.
Thank you goes to you for hosting.
Yes, thanks to me, the most important guy here.
If you think about it, Swis and John are kind of like a phoenix brand, right? Rising from the ashes.
That's true. That's kind of true.
Okay, OC is out now. Run the trailer.
Time out.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. See you guys. Bye-bye.
Come and get it! 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 You won't regret it in 2022 at Tip Top Snack Bar!